Sometimes even the biggest stars can't keep their cool when the cameras are rolling. From Mark Wahlberg's booze-fueled takeover on the Graham Norton Show to Kanye West's blunt criticism of President Bush during a live fundraiser, these moments show just how raw and human celebrities can get under pressure. But what makes these public breakdowns so unforgettable? And why can't we look away when stars lose control on live TV? Why don't you take a second and subscribe to our channel? Mark Wahlberg on Graham Norton, the overconfident guest. Mark Wahlberg's appearance on the Graham Norton Show wasn't your average late-night interview. From the moment he walked on stage, it was clear he'd had a little too much pre-show cheer backstage. He wasn't just chatty, he was practically bouncing off the walls, full of energy and unfiltered opinions. Wahlberg, known for his laid-back yet sharp persona, seemed to have dropped all filters that night. What followed was a mix of humor and pure awkwardness that left the audience both entertained and cringing. Wahlberg's antics didn't stop at the host either. He quickly set his sights on fellow guest Sarah Silverman, challenging her in a way that felt more combative than friendly. When he wasn't poking fun at Silverman, he was practically wresting the show's control away from Graham Norton, who did his best to keep things on track. Norton, always the professional, tried to steer the conversation back to the other guests and the show's intended flow. But Wahlberg had other plans. At one point, he even managed to make the usually unflappable Norton visibly frustrated as he fought to maintain control. Mike Tyson on Joe Rogan, a tense interview. When Mike Tyson sat down with Joe Rogan, it wasn't just another interview, it was a collision of personalities. Tyson, with his legendary status and intense energy, brought a palpable tension to the room. From the start, Rogan seemed both fascinated and a little on edge, sensing that Tyson wasn't in the usual talk show mode. Tyson's demeanor was controlled but intense, a far cry from the lighthearted guests Rogan often has on his show. As they talked about Tyson's career and his experiences, Rogan tried to navigate Tyson's unpredictable energy, keeping things respectful and careful not to cross any invisible lines. But things shifted when Rogan laughed at one of Tyson's stories about getting injured. Tyson, who doesn't take perceived disrespect lightly, responded with an icy, almost chilling stare that silenced Rogan's laughter immediately. Rogan, realizing he'd crossed a line, quickly adjusted his tone, clearly caught off guard by how fast the mood changed. The moment was a reminder of Tyson's reputation. He's known for his volatility, especially when discussing his own pain and struggle. Machine Gun Kelly's fan incident, an unexpected run-in. During Machine Gun Kelly's Forbes 30 Under 30 livestream, things took a surprising turn when a fan unexpectedly rushed the stage, interrupting the interview. MGK, usually known for his edgy style and intense performances, seemed genuinely startled as the fan approached him mid-sentence. His reaction was swift and defensive. He turned to the fan and sharply told him to back off. In that moment, you could see his guard was up, and his response left everyone watching divided. Some fans felt that MGK's reaction was hostile and a bit too harsh, especially for someone as approachable as he usually seems. Others, however, saw it as completely justified. After all, he was on a live broadcast, caught off guard, and had no idea what this fan's intentions were. This split reaction showed just how quickly fans and critics alike can debate a celebrity's behavior, especially when it's live and raw. Jim Carrey at New York Fashion Week, a philosophical rejection of fame. When Jim Carrey showed up at New York Fashion Week, he wasn't there to celebrate the glitz and glamour. In fact, he made it clear from the start that he found the whole event meaningless. As cameras rolled, Carrey spoke about the emptiness he saw in the fashion industry, bluntly describing the event as one of the most meaningless gatherings he could imagine. His unexpected honesty left the interviewer visibly thrown, and fans watching were split between admiring his brutal honesty and wondering if Carrey had grown cynical. Carrey's disillusionment with Hollywood has been brewing for years. Once the king of comedy with an endless string of blockbusters, he began shifting his focus, often speaking out against the superficiality of fame and the hollowness he found in the entertainment world. For some, his words resonated deeply, echoing a shared feeling about the emptiness of celebrity culture. But others saw his comments as a rejection of the very industry that had made him a household name, questioning whether he was undermining his own legacy. Michael Rapaport and Kenya Moore on The Andy Cohen Show, a real-life Twitter feud. Naomi Campbell's diamond incident, walking out on live TV. Naomi Campbell has always been known for her fierce personality, but her infamous diamond incident took things to a whole new level. During a live interview, Campbell was asked about a blood diamond she allegedly received as a gift from former Liberian President Charles Taylor, a man later convicted of war crimes. The term blood diamond refers to gems mined in war zones and sold to finance violent conflicts. So this wasn't just any diamond, it was a loaded question with heavy implications. But Campbell wasn't having it. She gave a terse, icy response, making it clear she had no intention of discussing the matter. The tension in the room was obvious. Campbell's response was blunt and her frustration grew, making it clear she felt cornered. Despite the interviewer's attempts to coax more out of her, Campbell maintained her defensive stance. She gave short, curt answers and made it clear that she didn't want to be drawn into a conversation that she felt didn't belong in the public eye. Her refusal to comment reached a peak when, without another word, she abruptly walked out of the interview, leaving everyone stunned. This wasn't the first time Naomi Campbell had made a dramatic exit, but this moment only added to her reputation for unpredictability and intensity. The incident fueled speculation, with some viewers convinced her silence spoke volumes, while others defended her, saying she was just protecting herself from intrusive questions about a sensitive issue. Campbell later testified about the diamond under oath at Taylor's war crimes trial, admitting she had received a dirty-looking stone, but insisting she didn't know its origins. But hey, let's pause for a second so you can quickly subscribe to our channel and don't forget to comment your thoughts so far. Russell Brand's retort to rude hosts. Holding his own, Russell Brand's quick wit has always been his trademark, but one live interview turned into a true showcase of his skill in handling disrespectful hosts. During a segment on a morning show, Brand was met with an unusually patronizing attitude. The hosts referred to him in the third person as if he weren't there, spoke over him, and even called him by the wrong name. But instead of getting flustered, Brand responded with his signature humor, turning the tables on the hosts with ease. When the hosts laughed awkwardly, as if they couldn't understand his British accent, Brand seized the opportunity. He gently chided them, suggesting they focus a bit more on what he was actually saying rather than their preconceived impressions of him. Without missing a beat, Brand wove humor into his defense, making it clear that he was both in on the joke and above it. His remarks were sharp but playful, leaving the hosts visibly embarrassed yet amused. As the interview continued, one of the hosts slipped up again, referring to Brand by yet another wrong name. Brand didn't let it slide, pointing out the simple courtesy of addressing someone correctly and adding that he felt like an alien being studied by Earthlings. This comment brought some laughs from the crew and audience, while the hosts, visibly thrown off, struggled to regain control. Brand's charm and sharp comebacks not only diffused the tension, but earned him respect from viewers who admired how he handled the situation. Jerry Seinfeld versus Larry King. A misunderstanding on cancellation. When Jerry Seinfeld appeared on Larry King Live, viewers expected a relaxed, insightful conversation between two TV legends. Seinfeld, fresh off the incredible success of his self-titled sitcom Seinfeld, was there to reflect on the show's legacy and the unique moment it held in television history. But the interview took an unexpectedly awkward turn when King made a comment that instantly struck a nerve. King, in his trademark casual manner, asked Seinfeld if his show had been canceled. For Seinfeld, this was an absolute affront. He immediately bristled, not out of anger, but out of sheer pride, and maybe just a little disbelief that anyone could assume Seinfeld, of all shows, had been axed. The misunderstanding set off a chain of reactions that turned the casual interview into an iconic live TV moment. Seinfeld, visibly taken aback, interrupted King to clarify. He leaned forward, his expression both humorous and incredulous, and asked, "You think I got canceled? Are you under the impression that I got canceled?" He added with a slight smirk, "I was the #1 show on television, Larry. Do you know who I am?" His response was part pride, part astonishment, and a pinch of playful arrogance. But that pinch of arrogance was enough to inject a dose of tension into the studio, especially as King realized he'd misjudged the question. The entire moment could have easily turned into an uncomfortable silence, but Seinfeld's quick-wittedness softened the tension. He kept his tone light, never truly angry, but there was no doubt that his pride was stung. After all, Seinfeld had been a cultural phenomenon. The show ended not because it had lost viewers, but because Seinfeld himself had decided to step away while they were still at the top. He wanted to avoid the all-too-common trap of lingering past the peak, of becoming stale or repetitive. He'd famously walked away on his own terms, with over 75 million viewers tuning in for the finale. For Seinfeld, there was simply no higher way to go out, and he was determined to make sure that King understood this. King, for his part, seemed momentarily flustered but tried to clarify, saying he just didn't know the full story. For a split second, the veteran broadcaster appeared to be caught off guard, as if he hadn't quite expected this level of pushback from Seinfeld. He quickly tried to smooth things over, but Seinfeld wasn't letting it go that easily. With characteristic wit, he continued to poke fun at King's slip, asking, "Can you imagine if I got canceled?" It was a line that could have come straight out of one of his comedy routines. The humor wasn't lost on anyone watching, but beneath it was a very real sense of pride that Seinfeld was determined to protect. Seinfeld's reaction wasn't just about a misunderstanding. It was about defending his legacy. For him, Seinfeld wasn't just any sitcom. It was a show that changed television, one that redefined what a comedy series could be. It brought a new approach to storytelling, revolving around nothing and celebrating the quirks and absurdities of everyday life in a way no show had done before. Seinfeld had carved out a place in pop culture so deep that it felt unthinkable for someone as informed as King to misinterpret its ending as a cancellation. So, in that moment, Seinfeld wasn't just defending his pride, he was defending the show's legacy and everything it stood for. But as the tensions simmered, Seinfeld turned the moment into something more than a simple defense. His reaction became part of his comedic persona, showing the audience that even a comedy icon with unparalleled success could be caught off guard. And yes, even take things a bit personally. That vulnerability gave viewers a glimpse of a side of Seinfeld they didn't often see, the prideful creator behind the calm, observational humor. This wasn't just Jerry the comedian, it was Jerry the artist, the man who had poured himself into his work and wasn't going to let it be reduced to a simple misunderstanding. In the end, the exchange left both men a little rattled, but managed to add a layer of humor to an otherwise awkward moment. King, to his credit, handled Seinfeld's jabs with his usual calm demeanor, showing that he could roll with the punches. And for Seinfeld, the misunderstanding served as a reminder that no matter how well you know the world of television, the unexpected can always happen. It was a lesson in humility wrapped in humor, a balance that Seinfeld always excelled at. Adeles' middle finger at the Brit Awards, standing up for herself. Adele has always been loved for her powerful voice and genuine personality, but one of her most unforgettable moments came not from a song, but from her middle finger. During the 2012 Brit Awards, Adele was on stage accepting the award for Best British Album for 21, an album that had swept through the music world, breaking records and putting Adele at the top of her career. She was emotional, heartfelt, and clearly grateful to her fans and team. But just as she began speaking, thanking everyone who had supported her through her journey, she was interrupted. the show's producers were rushing her off the stage to make time for the next performance. In a moment of pure frustration, Adele flashed her middle finger in defiance as she walked off the stage, a gesture that would instantly become part of her legend. For viewers, her reaction was shocking but understandable. This was Adele's big moment, a celebration of her hard work, dedication, and undeniable talent. After all, 21 was more than just an album. It was a deeply personal record that Adele had poured herself into. The success of 21 meant the world to her, and she deserved a moment to bask in the recognition. Instead, the show's producers cut her speech short, treating her win as a minor detail rather than the major highlight it was. The pressure of a live broadcast and the producers' concern about timing issues were understandable, but for Adele, it felt like a slap in the face. And for her fans, it was a rare example of how the demands of television can sometimes overshadow the genuine emotion and significance of the moment. So, when she lifted her middle finger, it was a response that many of her fans found refreshingly honest. Adele wasn't going to smile and pretend everything was fine. She was frustrated, and she wanted everyone to know it. The moment could have easily been interpreted as an inappropriate outburst, but instead, it resonated with fans worldwide. This was Adele standing up for herself, refusing to let the Brit Awards producers turn her hard-won moment into just another rushed award presentation. The authenticity of that gesture, a small but powerful sign of her frustration, only made her seem more human and relatable. Afterward, Adele made it clear that her reaction wasn't directed at her fans or the people in attendance. It was solely for the producers who had made the decision to cut her off so abruptly. She later explained, "I was about to thank the British public for their support, and they cut me off. So I just gave them the middle finger." Fans appreciated her explanation, understanding that she hadn't lost her temper at random. She'd simply reacted in the heat of the moment to what felt like an insult. That sense of integrity, her refusal to be anything other than herself, resonated with people around the world. In fact, her act of defiance only added to her reputation as an artist who values honesty over showbiz glitz. People love Adele not only for her incredible voice, but also for her authenticity. She isn't someone who plays into the game of celebrity. Instead, she's refreshingly real, never afraid to speak her mind, whether she's discussing her heartbreak, her roots, or her love for her fans. The Brit Awards incident served as a reminder that Adele isn't interested in fame for fame's sake. She's here for the music, for the people who connect with her songs, and for the stories she tells through her work. Her middle finger wasn't a reckless act of rebellion. It was a reaction to having her voice stifled, a voice that millions wanted to hear. This moment also brought attention to a larger issue in awards shows: the tendency to prioritize entertainment over the actual celebration of talent and hard work. For many artists, these awards are the culmination of years of dedication, sacrifice, and effort. Yet, in the interest of keeping a live broadcast smooth and timely, some of these personal, heartfelt moments are brushed aside. Adele's defiance highlighted how that can feel to someone on the receiving end. She reminded everyone that these awards aren't just about television ratings. They're about recognizing the sweat and passion that artists put into their work. In the end, Adele's middle finger was seen not as an ungrateful gesture, but as a defense of her authenticity and the integrity of her work. Many fans saw it as a brave stand against a system that often values spectacle over substance. By refusing to hide her frustration, she showed that she values her work and her moment in the spotlight, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way. This act of defiance made her even more beloved because it was a reminder that, while Adele may be a superstar, she's also a real person who demands respect, both for herself and for her craft. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, make sure to check out this next video as well.